You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. Log on to Instagram and you'll see videos of celebrity interviews, food recipes, and, yes, lately, homes for sale.
If you've only got $10,000, you can afford to buy this brand new house.
£17.95 million in Notting Hill, London, home of the carnival, with a very cool car lift, double fronted.
Let's take a look at what $770,000 can get you in Dallas, Texas.
This is the smallest listing in Portland, Oregon.
These days, realtors are leaning more on social media to show property listings. They take their audience on immersive tours and give details about a home's price, features, and neighborhood. And these posts get plenty of attention from casual viewers, but they do also attract potential buyers. We want to know more about how realtors are using social media to sell homes around the city. So we're talking with Candace Hagen today. She's a real estate agent who posts her listings to more than 11,000 followers on Instagram under Candace.Hagen. Hagen. Candace, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So how long have you been a real estate agent around Seattle?
I've been an agent now for 7.5 years.
So we called you up because you were featured in the Seattle Times talking about this trend of realtors using Instagram and TikTok to showcase homes. Why did you start branching out on social media? What was the draw?
Yeah, honestly, I started to think about myself and how I consumed content. And I, as a geriatric millennial,
with you on that. Yeah, we're in the same cohort. Yeah.
Represent 1985. Go to Instagram to find all different kinds of people. Like I remember when I was planning a wedding, I found my florist on there. And I use Instagram for myself as kind of a way to vet companies or vet people. I think even more so than going to a website, I want to see what somebody's Instagram looks like. And so when the pandemic hit in 2020 and everything was kind of shutting down, I realized everyone is sitting there glued to their phones because we couldn't really do much else. And if I am looking and finding things and people on Instagram, then surely other people are doing that who I want to reach as target clients. And so I thought, well, if I want to reach people in a similar demographic, geriatric millennials, then I really need to pivot and start focusing on marketing on Instagram.
And you have built up a pretty big community. I mean, 11,000 people plus are following your page. What did that building process look like? How long did it take for you to build? And were there any breakthroughs with reaching new audiences?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been probably 5 years since I kind of really pivoted into focusing on it. And I do have help with it. I mean, social media is a full-time job, so I have help with content creation. Probably in the last 2 years is when I really started I saw it start taking off and getting some viral posts. And a lot of those have been Seattle-centric content. Around restaurants, what to do in Seattle, neighborhoods. And it's funny because anytime something goes viral on Instagram, it also brings the haters, So you'll see all the different trolls, lots of I hate Seattle, Seattle's the worst. Anytime I see those kinds of comments, I know it's working, honestly. So yeah, I would say it really started taking off in the last couple of years, but probably 5 years ago when I started really focusing on it, I started to get some traction and get clients on it. And I'll never forget, I had this young adult cold email me, and she said, "Hey, I found you on Instagram. I binged all your videos. I'm wondering if you would talk to me about possibly being my realtor." And I thought, oh my gosh, this works, And so she ended up buying a townhouse in Ballard. And then it kind of just started to snowball from there. So it's been really fun. Yeah.
It strikes me that you can go on Zillow or Redfin or wherever and look at home tours, especially during the pandemic. A lot of those digital tours started to get more accessible. Like they would add those to all of the listings. But you can't get the personality that you put into the video. And what people are often looking for at that stage is, how do I find that person who's going to walk me through the process of buying a home, which is very scary, and you need a certain amount of trust. And so there's a way in which, yes, you're showing the homes, but you're also showing yourself more than anything, right? Like just sort of showing your approach to things. Does that make sense?
For sure. Yeah. I started doing educational videos where I would talk about what I thought is kind of boring stuff about real estate. But, educational content that was really, I think, helpful for first-time buyers. And so I think that mixed with some of the fun Seattle content, because we live in such a fun, beautiful city, really helped. And I do think it's true. I think that, people, what I feel like is happening, people want to find their own realtor. So even if some friend recommends their realtor, they want to do their own due diligence still. And so I think social media, Instagram in particular, has provided this platform where people can kind of do, in quotes, deep dives or creep different people and get a feeling of, someone's personality and know, and from there go, do I want to work with this person? And what's been really cool is most of the people that I've worked with from Instagram have been some of my favorite clients because they've kind of watched all my stuff. And then by the time they reach out to me and I start working with them, I feel like I'm just hanging out with a friend. Like there's so much affinity and similarities and we just vibe really well. And so I don't know, I've seen it just bring me my ideal client in a lot of ways, which is cool.
It shifts seamlessly from parasocial to in-person social. And it's like, oh, it actually works. So generally, what gets the most engagement? Is it you in a really interesting property, or is it those how-to videos that are sort of more educational? Like what gets the most engagement?
That's a good question. I think we could just do a quick look here. There was one that had 1 million views, which
Whoa.
is kind of insane. And okay, so 1.2 million views was these small towns in Washington are magical in the fall. And I don't know, it just showed, cute footage of these small towns that we can all drive to. And I think what happens when something goes viral is, someone sees that and they're like, oh, cute, I'm going to share that with my friend. We should go check out these towns. We should go do, a weekend trip. So those kinds of content have gotten a lot. And then whenever I personally list a house, I do my photographer and videographer who's helped me for years on my listings started doing these walkthrough tours where, at the beginning, I'll give kind of an introduction to the house, describe it, and then he'll do a really sped up home tour. And those have been getting anywhere from 10,000 to 15,000 views. And I think those really work similarly to the small town video where, if I see this cute house in Capitol Hill and my friend is, looking in Capitol Hill, I might say, oh, did you see this one in Capitol Hill? It's so cute, And that's kind of how I think they end up getting traction. I did have a recent sale, which this is probably the first time I've known about it, that this has happened, where I had this house for sale in Bryant. And I normally don't meet the buyers. It was kind of an unusual circumstance how I met the buyer on this house. But she said, oh, I saw your video on Instagram and I wasn't actually looking in Bryant initially, but the house was so nice. I told my agent I wanted to see it. And that was interesting to me, right? And that's when I thought, oh, this could work in another way because, a lot of people are doing their searches on their phone and maybe they think they only want to live in like Madrona, Capitol Hill, Madison Park. But then they saw this video of a cute house in Northeast Seattle, and then they're willing to maybe pivot their search a little bit. So I thought that was really interesting too.
And it's really good for the sellers, the people who own that house that you were able to sell.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any other impacts on the business? I mean, you certainly have a lot of people of those 11,000 who follow you who are never going to buy a house through you or use you to sell their house, right? Right. But there are, out of that group of people who end up seeing your post, there are people who are going to do the business with you or decide that you're the person that would be best for them. I mean, have you noticed any other ways that it has impacted your business?
Yeah, I think it provides kind of a social credibility somehow, almost like a resume in a way, right? And what's interesting is I've had clients refer me to their friends, right? I do a lot of business where, I've had clients moving here from LA and then their friend from LA is going to move here, right? So instead of them sending their friend my website, they send them my Instagram link, when they want to refer me. And so it's almost like a business card, a digital business card in a way. The days of kind of like, oh, here's my paper card. I feel like that's a little bit out. And then I think too, even if people that are following me aren't necessarily going to buy a house, maybe they have a friend who's going to buy a house. And so they'll say, "Oh, I follow this girl on Instagram. She sells a lot in Seattle. Check out her Instagram." And it's been really fun because Instagram has really introduced me to some cool people in Seattle. And so it does provide a way of networking that, instead of me going to some networking event in South Lake Union, I'm able to network on this platform. So,
Is this the type of thing that maybe 10, 20 years ago, somebody in your line of work would be taking out like an ad in a magazine or a newspaper, and instead this is the way that you're getting new audience? Like, do you advertise any other way?
yeah, it's interesting. I think yes. I think before people really did, yeah, the newspaper, and I think it might be a generational thing too, right? My father-in-law still gets the Seattle Times paper and consumes it that way. I consume it on my phone, right? And so I think if you're trying to reach a certain demographic, you pivot differently, right?
Does that
I
mean
do.
that you are reaching maybe a younger demographic than you would be with those other traditional modes of advertising, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say on Instagram, the clientele that I've reached on there is mostly probably late 20s to mid 40s is sort of the main. I've also helped people in their 60s, different ages, but I would say the main crux of the people have been first-time buyers that are 28 to 45 kind of demographic. And then I do advertise through what's called a farm, a neighborhood farm. I send mailers through that. And I have gotten several listings that way. And I think it's interesting because everybody has sort of pivoted to emailing, that I think we've gotten so spammed with email that I've found direct mail is actually reaching people differently these days, right? So my direct mail has been very successful, and my Instagram has been very successful. And those are kind of the two ways that I've really leaned in to marketing myself and have seen, you know, good results.
People, especially in our cohort, so elder millennials or millennials of all stripes, the joke is that you're just like scrolling on Zillow or scrolling on, real estate listings. And it's become like kind of like a pastime.
Yeah.
And I feel like this Instagram growth and your work as an Instagram savvy realtor is part of that, kind of trend of it becoming more like something that people just really enjoy to watch and experience through a screen. I mean, do you have any other final thoughts on like how social media has changed the way you think about real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think Zillow and all those platforms have become a different app that people use to spend time, even if they're not interested in buying, because it's fun. I mean, how fun is it to look at the $20 million waterfront in Laurelhurst? You might never be able to afford it, but look at how the finishes they chose, right? Maybe you
I'm
love them.
such a voyeur. I love it. I am all about it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you love it, maybe you hate it, then you send it to your friend like, "Oh my gosh, why did they choose this?" It's fun. And I think for me, I have people all the time asking me, "Oh, maybe I should start doing Instagram because, they've seen that I have success on it." And my whole thing is be true to yourself. The reason why I kind of leaned into the app and started doing it is because I used the app for fun before. I started using it when it first came out, and to me, it's fun. I like spending time there. But for other people, like other realtors, I'm like, if this isn't fun for you, it's going to feel really forced and really awkward. And so just kind of be true to yourself and whatever that looks like off not by not using the platform or how you show up on the platform, because I think people really, including myself, appreciate authenticity too. And so that's something too that I've really tried is when I go in my stories, I'll talk about other stuff too. It's not all real estate, but you can kind of get an inside look into my life, my personality. And so, yeah, I think for me as a real estate agent, I looked at Instagram and haven't really gone on TikTok yet, but I always want to be flexible and be willing to try new things and kind of go where things are going and not get too stuck in my ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And also, like, just part of standing out in business these days is that brand building that, as you say, becomes a replacement for business cards or for other kinds of ways that people might discover you. Like, people want to feel like they get that little insight into you and that level of authenticity in order to build trust. It's really interesting. And I thank you so much for sitting down with me to chat about it. Candace Hagen, real estate agent here in Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. By the way, this show is only possible because listeners support us. If you are able to give right now, check out the show notes for a link to donate. And don't forget, you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 FM Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime online at KUOW.org.